finally starting to realize that adaptation is what they need to survive.
And that was the first time around RIT changed their strategy as well. So there were quite a lot of variables, but it lined up perfectly for UTK to get their third, and just maybe the 9-3 curse can work out in UTK's favor and push us to a map number 3. But we're gonna have to wait and find out, because as you stated in the before the start of the last round, already have the advantage of being on the defensive side as well, and they have a double controller setup, which is slightly more preferable than having one controller and one sentinel to defend on this map,
No more
especially
Viper.
Kobe Maddox going so good at the odd angles. He's found two yet again.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching Kofi. RIT right now look a little bit baffled. It looks like they're just walking through some of these shots. I can forgive the Viper walking through, but after that, I'm not so sure that Kofium should have been able to get the one that they did. UTK does have that spike down. They're gonna have the advantage to have the Astra able to place down those stars. We see that exactly happening. J Boogie holding in from screens, just maintaining the potential long sightlines over towards ramps.
Last player standing.
Noblecore exchanging shots on the sticky rice. This is a very difficult spot. Exchanging shots with Noblecore, one shot remaining off.
One enemy
Not
remaining.
sure what I just saw there from Vision Killer. It looked like they may have had a slight disconnect or something. I'm amazed that didn't blind J Boogie. Hit shell does go out, but it's just gonna be off. Not quite enough. J Boogie is going to walk away with the attackers coming up. But we've seen UTK win the first and bonus round before without much success afterwards.
Yeah, RT though, this time around they forced into this one, so they're not gonna have rifles to work with. Instead, they're just gonna be running around with pistols yet again. But that round, it almost got too close to call. I'm not sure what how Vision Killer even lived so far. He, I, I believe he DC'd for a second, or maybe he had some backer loss, but he somehow managed to live across those two players, and even you have diffused it, had that faint chance to. Oh no! Oh no!
That is
One enemy
that is
remaining.
the aggression we saw out of
Spike
RIT
down
on
A.
Ascent. Committed in almost exactly the same way, except I believe it was a stun this time around, maybe just the flash, but it's all up to Copium, and that is a very difficult ask when now 4 weapons from your team are in the opponent's hands.
The hell did we just witness? We saw some Wills try to knife someone. We saw 4 kills go down by the hands of simply classics and just a bit of utility. And now Copium, he's left in a 1 versus
No.
3, a 1 versus 2, and oh my goodness, what a round for RAT to kick things off for them on the second half, and they yet again ensure that UTK, they only are good for 2 rounds at the start of the half, and after that it was RIT's story. Can this be the same case again?
And UTK, their hubris are coming in a little bit hot there. I mean, we saw them drop down a rifle. I believe Hunter picked it up, the Vandal, and that's an investment I don't know if I necessarily agree with on that second round, especially when things are as lopsided as they appear to be against RIT. Kobe Madigan is starting things off by trying to throw some blinds down mid, see what kind of information they can get. They do get a little bit, but immediately that snake bite coming out, forcing them into an uncomfortable position, having to drop the dog. A little bit predictable, perhaps, on where that dog was going to be coming from.
Perhaps. But Noah Core now returning the favor as he's found a kill with a classic of his own. Goon Guy though, the deadly player of RIT in this map so far, he's found one, makes that 2 with Pain Shell. It's going to deal a bit of damage, but he gets to live. As Vision Killer on the other hand, he's found a crack himself, leaving only 2 players alive.
One enemy remaining.
But again, it's just Goon Guy. You can't get done with it.
Yeah, this Viper Plague looking essential to RIT right now, not even just in the context of kills, although you could definitely have that conversation about Goon Guy, but just the utility and the way it seems to be making UTK have to face some very uncomfortable and difficult decisions in terms of what path they take, in terms of what paths they can take, and then aside from that, I haven't even gotten into how those snake bites are being used, just beautifully chef's kiss coming out from Goon Guy. And I have no complaints. 22 and 4. I'm sure they don't either.
Probably do not. Wills though out with the operator. So far, we haven't really seen much operator action on Split. We saw a lot of it on Ascent, especially from Sticky Rice. But now that the Jets have been changed, Sticky Rice is giving Stick to a rifle, but instead
Already a lot of shots going out.
Player
J-Boogie
standing.
trying to use those glass
Spike
packs
down
in
A.
and aggressively, but is carrying that spike now. Economy has to try to make a grab for it. Forcing on to him. It's gonna be tough. Eventually taken down. Hunter with 2 HP does get to walk away alive, however.
Match point.
Yeah, and now Rochester Institute of Hearing Technology just one round away from closing the series out and closing out their own map pick. And in possibly 13-4 fashion, excuse me, it's not that dominant. But yeah, UTK they looked slightly better than they did on their own map pick, which I'm not gonna complain about because they got it solely because they were able to win those pistol rounds. Had they won pistols on map number 1, maybe things would have been a lot more closer, or maybe they had. Oh no!
I didn't see if that was collateral. That was
a collateral.
that's but UTK
I've
not
got your
out of this
trail.
quite yet. It's gonna be 2 kills or 3 kills going in their favor. Wheels gonna be hit or at least chased down by those seekers, eventually sussed out, and with that op shot coming through, you're gonna know that you should recognize that Wills is going to be on that jet with that operator. And they can start to really feel a lot of pressure here as they have to start deciding between, do we want to keep eyes out for tower or do we want to keep eyes out towards that garage? They decide into the garage. And almost catches their number, but not quite. Instead, it's going to be Economy. Managed to get that spike down the shots through the body. And J-Boogie just holding Overwatch right now. Hunter.
One enemy remaining.
Will be their Economy. Doesn't have the weapon out. Dropping the wall just for good measure, and that's going to be a GG coming in 4-13. Still a very dominant game for our
Clutch.
Map
Defenders
1,
win.
almost a
I'm
clean
too
sweep,
shocked for
13-2. Map number 2,
Of course
only
we won.
lost the pistol rounds and the bonus that followed after them, and a 13-4 victory. RIT literally showing us the definition of domination right there.
Yeah, and it was kind of the same story for UTK both rounds, right? I mean, the way it was told might have been a little bit different, right? Like they had a really good starting second half, right? Like they won pistols and bonus, and then they kind of fumbled the ball a little bit. I unfortunately got a little bit too hyped up for them after I saw that pistol rounds come through. I thought that this might be the change. This might be the moment we see things start to shift for them. Inflict doesn't quite work out that way. And hopefully, if I'm an optimist, if I'm looking at this on the bright side, UTK has something to walk away from saying, okay, these are weaknesses we got exposed, and these are areas where we need to improve, start bettering these score lines and bettering these map differentials.
Yeah, and sure, there might be quite a lot of mistakes if I'm being very honest, but that's all the more opportunity for you to improve on. You can fix things one by one. That's one more round you secure, one more after that, one more after that, and that can lead up to map wins, that can lead up to series wins, and we're at the very start of the season as well. So they're gonna have chances to make a comeback in the season as well. This was just the very first game.
Yeah, I definitely tend to agree, and I think that I'm actually very curious to start getting some perspective from RIT where as to what their kind of mentality is, where they might be going with things. And I do know, our producer just communicated it with me, that it's going to be Vision Killer coming in for RIT for our interview. And folks, we will be taking that here in just a moment, but we are going to be going to a short break, so make sure you stick around. Hello, welcome back, everybody. And just like that, very quickly, we are back into this Sir Waltham Inflict here with special guest Vision Killer. Vision, hello, welcome, and perhaps most importantly, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now, I want to know, RIT, you guys came in blazing, held the entire game pretty blazing through and then exited in a very blazing fashion. But I want to know what the mindset was like coming into this map against Tennessee. Did you have any special game plans, or was this kind of just another day at the office for you and your team?
Sure. I mean, I know we come in with our game plan and all the stuff that we hammer out during scrims and our strat talks, and we stick to that. And when it works like it does today, then there's nothing more we got to say about it. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I want to talk about, we are at the very start of the season. This was, I believe, your first game as well. What are you hoping? Because we saw you play extremely dominantly. You look like you're in a good shape as well. What are your sort of end goals like by the end of the season? Are you looking to be the most dominant team? Are you looking to make a statement right here?
absolutely, we want to play against the best. We want to prove that we are one of the best teams, and want to take down each team as we can take them. So.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to drag it too much further, but there was one particular round that I want to talk about where I believe it was you in a 1 versus 3. It felt like you disconnected for a second, but you came back suddenly, got two two frags, and almost won that round. What exactly went down there? Because I'm pretty sure we're all a bit confused.
And it might have been a bit of an ego play on my part. Just kind of messing with the other team, having fun. Like you said, 1v3. There's like 20 seconds left. Having a little bit of fun with it. And you're right, almost bringing it back at the end. So I wish I didn't troll around as much, but it was still fun.
I don't think the score lines are going to mind all that much, Vision Killer. I mean, a fantastic performance both from you and the whole of RIT. That is all we have for you here. But before we let you go, do you want to give you the opportunity for any shout outs, friends, family, teammates, enemies, whoever you want? You have the floor.
Sure. Shout out to the team. Shout out to the coach. All the boys that, get us to where we are now. Appreciate all their hard work, and we're going to keep grinding. So thank you guys very much.
Fantastic, Vision Killer. Once again, RIT going to be a team we're keeping eyes on pretty heavily as we go throughout this season. But once again, in case I haven't said it enough, a big congratulations for your victory here today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
And with that, Inflict, we are ready to take a quick little break before we head into our next game, which is going to be Montana versus Cincinnati. So, folks, make sure you stick around. We'll be right back after this. Hello, folks, and welcome back. Another exciting matchup here at EGF Season 5 here for this final game of the night. It's going to be Montana State University versus the University of Cincinnati. Once again, spearheading the casting for this game is going to be Inflict and myself, Sir Waltham. Inflict, how are we feeling about this matchup here?
Again, we haven't really seen both of these teams play a lot. We've only witnessed one game so far. I believe University of Cincinnati, they're coming off of a win, a two-win last week, so they're definitely going to be feeling themselves. Montana, I'm not entirely sure what their scoreline was of the game, but both of these teams, it seems like they've got some reps in already. They're a tad bit warmed up as well heading into the season so far. So I'm excited as well. Again.
We will be taking a quick look at these teams' rosters here. As we can see, Montana State going to be fielding Wi-Fi, Ursa, One Q-Tips, Halt Freaks, and Homerid. Similarly for University of Cincinnati, it's going to be Vulcan, Waldy, Jectile, Jelly Donut, and Dummy. Excited to see these two teams go head to head. And to expand a little bit here for you, Inflict, I did cast the Montana State game. They had a weak first map, but then I believe they came back a little bit stronger on the map that they actually took the first pick on. We do have those maps here, and the first map they picked was going to be that Sunset map. So we're going to be seeing them on a map that they performed particularly strong on the first set we saw them. So I'm looking forward to seeing a strong start for Montana State. That being said, University of Cincinnati still definitely has a huge opportunity to set themselves ahead.
Yeah, and Sunset is University of Cincinnati's map pick. So, but if Montana had a good time on Sunset, then maybe we have a close game coming up, which we haven't really witnessed so far on today's broadcast. But hopefully that will change things up here shortly between both of these teams. But Sunset, it's a relatively new map. I'm gonna talk a little bit about. I want to ask you,
Mhm.
because you've already seen, you have already casted Sunset once before. What do you think the meta is going to look like for both of these teams? You've seen Montana play on this map as well.
Well, it's difficult. My memory is like a cheesecloth sometimes here in Flick, but I do remember seeing a harbor. So I like the potential there for those. I think it was a harbor for those walls to come through. Either way, not as much mid control coming out as I was particularly expecting for Sunset. It feels like whenever I'm playing it myself on those public games, I just always let mid control slip through my fingers like sand through an hourglass. But I'm curious to see if these teams are going to be kind of experiencing that same struggle. And more importantly, I'm curious to see these compositions that will be coming through. We are going to be taking just a few moments before we get in here. But is there anything off the brain for you, Inflict, that you might expect to see these teams kind of rock out on or feel a little bit more comfortable with on the map?
I mean, so far we're very much used to teams either having a mirror matchup or something that's extremely similar to what the other team is playing. But Sunset being a new map, we're definitely going to be seeing different agent compositions, and that's exactly what we're witnessing. The Cipher is the same. The one MSU, they're going with the Jet for their duelist. The other side, Vulcan on that Raise for the initiator side of things. We have a Fade for the side of University of Cincinnati, but Montana, they've gone with a Breach. I'm not sure if I like to Fade, because I'm not entirely sure, because Fade on one side of the map I think can be extremely useful, but in my opinion, Fade's utility is pretty much limited because there aren't as many open places when we're getting closer into the site for them to line up their haunts from and get information with. So I think I might just prefer that Breach as a flash initiator and a Sky as an information initiator instead of that flash initiator Sky and that information initiator as Fade. So that, I think, Montana, in my opinion, have a relatively better composition, but we're gonna have to wait and see how this plays out.
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's the debate to be had that composition is one aspect, but also how those players perform mechanically as a team, cohesively, all just as equal important parts of the recipe here. As we get ready to look into this first round, the teams already starting to buy up pretty aggressively into this first round, with a couple members of University of Cincinnati still being holdouts. I'm looking at Vulcan, but it looks like it's just going to be armor and utility for that race.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna have to wait and see how this pans out. And Ursa, wow, well, already buying into a sheriff. So last time around, we saw a Jet pull out a sheriff on this broadcast. That game ended up going pretty good for that Jet at the very least. So Ursa, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on them as we head into this pistol round. And it seems like University of Cincinnati, they're all split up. They're not gonna get too aggressive over towards one particular side, but instead, it seems like they want to play off of information here.
Yeah, and it looks like there was just a bit of utility being pushed towards that B entry, just trying to make sure that MSU does not get too supremely aggressive in there. Jelly Donut does have the cams, the cipher trips all set up, and one thing worth noting is that a Sky can use a lot of kit to kind of negate those tripwires, particularly that Trailblazer. Have it take the lead instead of one of your teammates that can necessarily get tripped or slowed down or even caught out and identified by that team. going to be home, trying to get some sort of information with both the Trailblazer and the first. Not finding one projectile, able to get two right off the bat.
One
third
enemy
through the smoke.
remaining.
It's a nice little
Spike
one-way
down
able to
A.
take of your opposition. Montana State really struggling to play any here, and the Wi-Fi point blank couldn't quite make the connection on both.
Yeah, University of Cincinnati off to a good start there. They sort of gambled that one because they didn't exactly have a lot of information on Montana State earlier on, but they rotated 4 of their players on to defend onto the A side, so that gamble actually ended up working out for them because Montana State, they're playing that round very passively, and until the very second that they were sure they wanted to execute onto the A side, they hadn't really given away a lot of information. So Cincinnati, they gambled that round, but it actually ended up working in their favor. Montana State, they weren't able to get a lot of kills, so they're just gonna be all rocking those classics in the round number 2.
And the thing I mentioned about the Sky utility going out and negating a lot of those trips goes double for that fade as well. And MSC going to be getting 1 to the price of 2. Unfortunately, Vulcan going to be taking down 2 before eventually having themselves stopped. Jelly Donut going to be trying to hold off on the sites, but it's going to be difficult as it looks like Montana State starting to barrel in and get this commit. And if they're going to do that commit, I would recommend they do it a little bit faster. The reinforcements are going to start to come in from Cincinnati. It's exactly what we're seeing. That Sky wrapping around from the spawn.
Weapon here.
A little bit more of a passive angle, waiting perhaps for Montana State to do something, and they're going to have to. It's just their initiators left. And it's very difficult to enter on this site now, especially with Projectile going on.
1 enemy remaining.
And connect on to one series as well onto the breach. A nice shot coming in from the Astra.
Absolutely.
I did.
University
Again.
of Cincinnati only
They're
lose
weird.
1 in the process. They honestly they were able to hold that
There.
pretty well. They found those first 2 frags. They lost 1 player in the process, but they that bench from the side of the Astra was just really the final dagger. Being Montana State, they weren't prepared for it. University of Cincinnati played that to perfection pretty much. And now that Montana State have their rifles out, this is going to be the true challenge for University of Cincinnati.
This goes here.
I would certainly tend to agree, and University of Cincinnati being very heavy on this A defense. They don't have any possession at that mid. They want to commit a large lion's share of it straight into that site. And a little bit of information going to be gathered for University of Cincinnati with that bomb buddy going out, but perhaps a bit early. It's going to be Montana State getting that utility for a little bit freer than perhaps Cincinnati would have liked. Very slow play coming in this time around, but it's not going to
Spike
work
down
out for
A.
MSU as they take the shot from the Bulldog. That Fade getting the better of this team. Check out with a quick placement, the Nebula going out. Cypher trying to get some information on the other side of it. And right now, things not looking great for Montana State. They're having to still play very passive, and that's giving more and more time for Cincinnati to that map presence. One Q-tip's going to be stunned out and has the potential to get punished here. Doesn't quite happen that way, though.
Wow, my eyes are down.
Such a great job of keeping the players at bay, but Vulcan and Waldy, they found a frag each to their name, but MSU
1 enemy remaining.
returned the favor, leaving only 1 behind, going through the smoke. Jigtile finds the kill, and University of Cincinnati off to a good start.
And I love seeing that communication for Cincinnati. That grab pull for the attacking team seems so proficient, or excuse me, for the defense seems so proficient. If they just clustered 2 of them together, the Sky Astra were both able to take their 1. Love seeing that come through here. And now Montana State going to be in a tough spot. They're all going to be rocking out with sheriffs, and most coming out with light armor.
Absolutely. But we're gonna have to wait and see what they can work behind that RC. Oh, an amazing paint shield to kick things off. And you see, they know exactly what they're doing. Their util combos have been so good consistently. Last time, in the last round, as you said, their communication has been so on point. And again, this was a prime example of that. The Fade utility combined with that paint shell with the right timing, just a free kill for University of Cincinnati without even giving them any information whatsoever.
And Dummy going to be trying to take that peek into mid. It does get caught out by the Cypher just a little bit. However, that jump peek did save them from taking too much damage. Going to be able to walk it off. And still trying to get that information, but now the majority of Montana State going to be passing through or I guess in front of that mid, looking to lean towards B. And just some really passive play coming out from Cincinnati. They get their one. They know that the disadvantage is on Montana State, so they're content to just let them try to push through and burn any cooldowns, any blinds, any stuns that they may need to check those corners. Ooh, and
30 seconds left.
Found another. That's the third for them in this round. And they're going to behind University of Cincinnati yet again. Rather comfortably.
that Fade is going to get information on at least one member.
One
Not
enemy
sure it's going to
remaining.
be both the Astra and the Breach. One member remains standing. At least that was the case before Hulk got put down. And not even fully onto site was Montana State before they just got wiped.
Yeah, that was probably the closest round. Almost the closest round we've had so far. There was a one round which came down to a 1 versus 2. But Montana State University, they've tried a couple of different things so far, but University of Cincinnati, they've been so good with their Astra smokes and the utility of Waldy and Dummy combined
Let's have some
with combo with a couple of other things that they've just kept the players of University of Montana State University at bay for so long. They've just made them play desperately in the final few seconds.
And there was, it didn't net any kills, but there was already another set play. We saw the Sky Bird go in with that Brave Vulcan Satchel. Actually, and managed to get one on this side of the Nebula, but a bit optimistic with that Showstopper. Waldy able to pick up the slack for the 2 kills. However, now it's just going to be up to that Cypher and the Astra. They have the tripwires placed up, so if anybody starts to push towards that attacker spawn, they'll either get caught out by the trips or we'll have to shoot them, and of course, give away their position either way. But it's going to be very difficult now because the attackers don't seem to be super aggressive. They may not have the composition to really feel like they can lean in here.
Yeah, and I believe that Montana State, they've used their smokes as well. It's going to be 1Q Tips who's gonna have to put up cages for them to have a rather safer plant, but Waldy, he's present close by to possibly deny that. So far he's gained information out of both the players, so they're taking the Trailblazer going to further investigate
30
as
seconds
UC
left.
get close by.
Oh, but Projectile playing on the opposite end of this cage has to be very careful. Might meet their end by Q-tips here if they're not fast enough. Actually throwing in the stars.
Last
Quick
player
moment.
standing.
Oh, but the unfortunate side of Q-tips has to take a
enemy
look at the
remaining.
cam and is immediately taken down by Projectile. However, Halt has an opportunity here. Waldy
10 seconds
playing very
left.
passive, knows that they have the opportunity to pressure Halt. Spike plant swing coming out. Waldy comes up victorious. Is going to get that defuse, and Cincinnati, it was a close one, but they maintained this lead clean.
Yeah, all of these rounds, it feels like they're getting closer and closer, and
Don't
almost a
even
1
start
versus
that
3 for
shit,
Montana
mate.
State University. But University of Cincinnati, they remain flawless so far. Their economy is looking pretty strong as well. I believe a couple of players have max economy as well, so they're in no shape struggling. But now this is the wave where ultimates are going to start to come online for Montana State. They already have 2 online. The rest of the players are very close by. Yursa and Homer Red only 1 ultimate point away. Wi-Fi 3 away themselves. So eventually they're not going to have a good arsenal this time around. But the next round is where Montana State are going to look dangerous, when they're going to have about 4 ultimates online potentially and full rifles to work with.
Information being gathered by Cincinnati. That Sky player throwing the birds high up, making sure that that bird can flash anybody within its radius and get that information. And now we're seeing a heavy lean from Cincinnati towards that B site. There's the tripwire that will be catching anybody out should they try to push from mid to B. Not going to quite be the case though. MSU looking very reserved, looking a little
Blocking
bit
sight.
hesitant. Perhaps it's going to be that cloudburst coming through, but I'm not really seeing what Montana's looking to do with these positions here. They're being very, very slow to respond. That's 1 tripwire taken down by that Trailblazer. As I mentioned, Projectile able to take down 1, gets a second, gets a
Spike
peek
down
onto the
mid.
3rd as those clean headshots coming through.
1 enemy
Can't quite make
remaining.
the 3rd happen. The Vulcan there ready to swing with them and get that final kill in this Q-tip.
Cage trigger.
Let's try to do something, but they are so far away from the spike. This is looking like a long
My eyes are better than yours.
1 versus 4 made into 1 versus 3. 1Q Tips. There's a shot, but can they more? The answer is no. And Projectile going humongous in that round as University of Cincinnati put on their 6th.
And that really just felt like Montana were lingering around that midsection way too long. They didn't look like they know where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. I think that was a real opportunity that they lost when they kind of haven't given that lead to Cincinnati before, but now Cincinnati gets that read for free.
Yeah, and a very much needed timeout from Montana State being called. They recognize they need to change things up. They need to talk things through because University of Cincinnati, excuse me, they're looking strong. They're looking dominant now. 6-0 up. Sure, this is their own map pick, but you cannot let them have a dominant score line. University of Cincinnati, they're chilling though. They're just like the Steady Bear right here. They're up 6-0. They're having their drinks. They're probably just laughing right now in this timeout while the pressure it's starting to rise for Montana State.
Yeah, and this is not a position that Montana wants to be in. And I hate to do it, but I'm actually gonna correct you on this one, Inflict. This was Montana's pick. Montana State University picked Sunset as their map to start.
Oh.
So this is especially a bad situation given that they are still bleeding out quite aggressively on this map.
That'll work.
I read UC picks defense for Sunset, and I thought that is that. Oh my bad. Okay, I confused some other things. But but again, that's even worse than University of Cincinnati up 6-0 on Montana State's pick. But this is the moment where Montana State they need to make their comeback. They have 4 ultimates online. They just used timeouts. They have every weaponry that they possibly could have wanted, alongside all the utility as well. If you don't make a comeback happen right here, University of Cincinnati are gonna run away with the first half.
University of Cincinnati were very practical in terms of how they want to use their utilities. Waldy's stuck in a very uncomfortable spot and blasted outside of Wi-Fi. Prowlers coming through, trying to get any protection that they can from Cincinnati. One shots being traded back and forth. And this team not necessarily winning the best of this exchange. It all comes down to Ursa trying to land the use of 9. Can't quite make it happen. It's not the cloud burst, but that is when Jetile swings, and University of Cincinnati looked very good.
Yeah, Montana State, they were off to a pretty good start. They gained a lot of real estate onto the side. Baldy going down to the aftershock from Wi-Fi. Felt like maybe they can hold on to the University of Cincinnati, not even letting Montana State have a second of calmness. They didn't allow them to plant the bomb. Either University of Cincinnati, they've completely broken through Montana State's economy as well. A couple of ultimates been wasted. And Montana State now on the back foot. They've lost the first half already. They need to make a comeback happen quick right here.
This question coming in from University of Cincinnati. They've got 2 members already pushing up all the way towards that A site from mid. This could be essential if a nice squeeze comes in from the defending team. Has the opportunity to get 1 Jetile taken out. That is the 2 on the back end taken down, and stabilize themselves just a little bit. Fatal comes in, try to put some pressure on those attackers. Went is going down.
1 enemy remaining.
Trying to exchange those shots with Jelly Donut, just looking a little bit too proficient.
An 8-0 score line, and this is giving me flashbacks of what we saw in the previous series. The first map pick, whoever it was, didn't exactly go the way they planned. An 8-0 scoreline. That's where the team actually ended up coming back and securing 2 rounds. But still, the half ended 10-2. So if we're just gonna be seeing that, then Montana State, there's no good news for them in the second map as well. Potentially, if we're seeing a repeat of Series 1.
I would tend to agree, and that is a big flash. And keep eyes out on that raise, and they're already pushing up once again. We're starting to see University of Cincinnati perhaps get a bit lax on that respect they're starting to show towards Montana State, but Montana State knows this, perhaps, and tries to push that tempo up a little bit more. They're picking up around that long into A, trying to find what they can, save that Astros, holding that spawn entryway. Or at least trying to find the entries into spawn. Sky gonna be trying to go for the plant. Jetile has to back off a little bit, and now it's gonna be that Astral Divide coming in. Jetile trying to get some sort of information, throwing down an Astral Divide of their own. That is essential. It cuts off 3 members of Montana State. Not bothered, managed to get 2, but ready back rather quickly. Ursa not quite able to connect on the Jelly Donut, and that is costly.
absolutely is, but
Last player
very
standing.
much knocked down, though the neural theft going to give him all the information that they possibly could have wanted. Again with the fake
Last player
defuse, they don't have the
standing.
one.
Quit your tiptoeing. They're all dead.
And
Couldn't find the other.
that was essential for Montana State. I mean, we're seeing a carbon copy of our last match between those two schools, where you mentioned it. That 9th round is where we started to see things finally flip a little bit in favor to the underdog team. Montana State only has one, no guarantees they're going to get much more than that, but now maybe they can start building up at least a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, again, if they're able to get an 8-4 scoreline or a 9-3 score, 9-3 not so much, but an 8-4 scoreline, I think Montana State they should be happy with that considering the start that they've had, and they'll close out the first half with momentum on their side, technically having won 4 rounds in a row if they can somehow manage to convert that, but we're gonna have to wait and find out if they live up to that though. As Montana State again playing this rather slow, they have a lot of presence close by over towards the A side, but there are also 3 defenders available for University of Cincinnati to hold them back.
And I like this from Cincinnati. They kind of touched the stove, their hand got burned, and they learned from it, because now they're not getting as down the lane, at least not without knowing where the majority of Montana State are not playing that actually gets stunned out, taken down. Jelly Donut, however, pulling 2 before they do drop.
Taken out.
And Waldy making sure that spike
One
is
enemy
a bit
remaining.
more aggressively, getting a second of their own. Now it's all up to Wi-Fi. Sees that spike through the walls, trying to get something with it, but it's going to be very difficult, especially with this number of defenders, that information being gathered by the bird. Looks away at perhaps the most inopportune time, and Jectile has the shot, wallbang connected into the headshot. That's all she wrote for round 10.
That's all she wrote indeed, but now as we head into the second last round of the first half, the economy isn't looking good for Montana State. I don't believe they've used their Astra ultimate yet. I believe we saw Jectile use it once, but they've been holding on to that for quite a while. Or even if they did use it, it was a while ago. So Montana State, in the next round probably they'll end up executing it, but they need to ensure that they use it wisely. You know, we've seen them play very patiently. Perhaps they need to get aggressive. They need to use that ultimate to get aggressive and head straight into a site, and perhaps get a couple of frags while they make on their way, because University of Cincinnati, they've been very aggressive for the most part. Last time around they were playing relatively slow and it worked out in their favor, but again we can see some aggression. Dummy giving out peeks early on over towards middle. We can see the raise over towards the A side, checking corners aggressively, but still Montana State, they're keeping their calm.
And you were right, Montana State did have a few rounds since they've used that astral barrier, but it did force out the same from University of Cincinnati, and that was pretty crucial. University of Cincinnati seems much more reactive on that and a little bit off balance. I think that can tell you something about this team in general, but Montana State has to realize it themselves, trying to gather a little bit more information with that. Gage comes up, and the stun not even necessary before Jelly Donut gets put into the dirt. And when Q-Tips has the opportunity to pick up a rifle, but I believe it may have gone to the jet instead now. The attacking team, Montana State, going to be having possession of that B site. And this is going to be advantageous if they can get nestled on. They have those closer range weapons. You can see the Phantom held by one Q-Tips. Crowley comes out, tries to exchange shots. One Q-Tips managing to land it successfully. And right now, Cincinnati, again, caught on the back foot, but Waldy able to equalize a little bit after the vibe comes through. A headshot that doesn't do enough damage. Jectile throwing in the star. The last location is known. And a nice swing out with the bird, enabling that kill from the Phantom and the fuse shortly to follow.
And as University of Cincinnati put on double digits in the first half on Montana State's map pick, we finally have a shot at potentially a different scoreline than what we saw in map number 1 in the previous series. But it's not going to be good news for Montana State though, because University of Cincinnati have a very good shot at putting on 11 rounds, which means technically if they're able to win the pistol round, they'll sort of win the map as well, because they'll have the better economy heading into the next one. But it's all the sort of theoretical so far, although we're very close to it. University of Cincinnati, they still have to win this round. On Montana State, they still have a minuscule chance, but a chance to make a comeback happen as well.
Oh no, coming out, the showstopper goes right on to Ursa. That's going to be a very difficult opportunity for MSU, now losing that jet player. have that aggression to entry with the Jet anymore, but oh, a nice shot on the wraparound, manages to get one. It's going to be 2 members left for both teams. That information gathered by the defense, however, Cincinnati has that neural link up. Healing coming through for Montana State, keeping everybody nice and topped off. The mid being played here by Cincinnati, just perhaps not an opportunity to react quickly no matter where that spike goes down as well, playing as that unit might be a little bit more proficient. Seekers go out, providing that info for Montana State.
Yeah, the Seekers are going to be absolutely crucial to Montana State's post plant, and now they have the Astral barrier online as well. This has to be the perfect time. This is the last round you have to use it. We can see it being lined up. You're gonna have to wait and see how they decide to go against it, though.
And we're seeing a lot of utility being put down by that Astra. It's going to be the defuse sound coming through. Line coming out immediately. Infiltration call has to connect here. Does it? Waldy ensuring that their Cypher does not die in vain. With the defuse coming through, University of Cincinnati puts themselves in the driver's seat to win going into this next half.
Not ready yet.
The communication, it has been so on point for University of Cincinnati. They kicked off this round with the showstopper combined with the gravity pull from Projectile. It was timed absolutely perfectly. You know, we've mentioned this from the start of the map actually. Earlier on, it was Vulcan combining his utility with Dummy. This time around, we saw Projectile doing the same with Vulcan. So the communication across all of these players, it's not like that a couple of players can communicate well among each other, it's that it's across the team. And that's exactly why University of Cincinnati have been just so good at pressurizing specific points of the map again and again, wherever Montana State have wanted to play. Sure, sometimes they've actually been successful and have had man advantages heading into post-plan scenarios, but the retakes, it requires great communication, and that's exactly what University of Cincinnati are delivering.
And again, now an aggressive push coming in from Montana State. That Jet pushing up to mid. And Cincinnati just holding together as a 5-man unit, trying to push onto site, although it is going to be B site, meaning that you can expect that Cypher to have quite a bit of utility. Throws in the cam, doesn't necessarily have too much. It's going to be that Trailblazer coming in, destroying that wire. 1Q Chips not able to get the better in that exchange. Vulcan, however, does drop in the end as well. Hummer making sure that their comrade avenged fully. Spike goes down, and now Cincinnati has put more pressure on Montana State. They have to react, they have to respond, and they have to do so effectively to ensure they win this round.
Big 2K for him, leaving only 2 players behind, and this post-ban
Last player standing.
again, this is looking deadly as Dummy finds another, leaving only 1 behind, and this might just be the dagger from number 1.
And that is certainly looking like it. Projectile having Ursa's number ready to react as soon as that Nebula drops. Looking so good. Ursa just kind of caught off guard there. Didn't look like they know where they wanted to kind of keep their crosshairs for that snap onto the shots. Too many options though when you're positioned in such an uncomfortable spot. Just gonna be very rough. We're gonna have to see a heavy buy coming in from Montana State if they want to have any opportunity of clutching this.
They're gonna buy anything that they possibly can, but it's not pretty. You have a couple of sheriffs, a couple of stingers, and a marshal. It's not great weapons. You're gonna have to rely on the sheriff to provide those at long range, and along with the marshal, with the stingers, range. Their setup, it's not prepared for this.
University of Cincinnati looks like they're getting hit by every piece of utility in the book, but they managed to not lose a single person. In fact, that Sky going to be healing everybody back to basically full health. So that was a huge commitment in terms of that utility from Montana State. They're immediately trying to react, push onto that A site before Cincinnati can take easy, heavy possession of it. Nebula comes out to make that pass a little bit easier for the now attacking team. And University of Cincinnati have blocked their way into a whole lot of space. Shorty comes in big from Ursa. Going to be a huge dive. Taken down by Q-Tips. That Phantom now on the floor. MSU has 2 members. So does Cincinnati.
1 enemy remaining.
How does this go? UC takes down 1 more, and it is all up to Hulk. With the sheriff going to be very difficult. The double swing coming in from both those players. University of Cincinnati makes this a quick one, that's for sure.
Well, that is quite literally a statement from the side of University of Cincinnati heading into week number 2 of their game. And this was MSU's map pick. I mean, earlier on I thought it was UC's, but somebody had told me this was University of Cincinnati's map pick, I would have agreed. A 31 scoreline. There's absolutely nothing wrong pretty much that they did. Sure, there a lot of these rounds were very close, but the composure, the resilience that University of Cincinnati showed alongside their key communication, it was all on point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There were definitely times where there were plays from the University of Cincinnati that just looked practiced. And I'm not even talking about on an individual level. You and me have mentioned it a couple of times during that game. There were times where just the combinations of abilities, even if those were on the fly, because I'll be honest, I'm not sure how much I would expect a team to specifically strategize for Sunset. I think that being the newest map, it might be one we expect teams to shy away from a little bit more. But even then, University of Cincinnati seemed unfazed. They knew what they wanted to do, how to get it done, and operate as a team to that capacity. Montana State, that was a blowout, and there is unfortunately no kind way to say that.
Yeah, there really isn't, but we still have Bind coming up, and if need be, we'll be heading on to Split. But before we do so, we're gonna take a quick short break, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, folks, and welcome back. A break almost as short as that last map we saw. Sunset ending in a pretty dominant fashion for University of Cincinnati. Montana State, perhaps showing their underbellies a little bit too much there. I say this with the hopes that some fire will start burning in Montana State, because right now, Inflict, I just feel like we're not seeing it.
You're really trying to burn Montana State right there. You're trying to roast them, either intentionally or unintentionally. It happened though, but it's okay. Montana State, they're still not completely out of the game yet. Sure, they ended up losing their own map pick in a devastating manner. But next up we have Bind. Now, Bind is a map that a lot of teams are actually pretty experienced on because it was on the very initial map pool of Valorant as well. Sure,
Mhm.
it disappeared for a little bit, but teams are individuals at the very least are generally pretty well versed on this map, unlike Sunset. So, if there were going to be amazing individual performances or superstar performances that can show up among this map pool, I'm assuming it happens on Binders. But so Montana State University, they can, if they have some star player, they can definitely show up on this map, have them help their team gain momentum, and maybe work off of that.
I absolutely agree. And I think if there's one player that I personally just based off of Sunset would look to for Montana State, I think it's the Astra player we saw previously, Halt. They looked like they had a head on a swivel. They seemed to the one round that Montana State won, I believe it was because Halt had a very strong sense on that on those flanks that were coming around a bit too aggressively from Cincinnati. And I want to talk about that Inflict because we talked about it during the break, you and I. Uh, University of Cincinnati made a mistake and immediately adapted to avoid making that mistake again. Montana, however, is not in the position of correcting their own mistakes, nor are they in the position of forcing mistakes out of Cincinnati. And I think one of those things needs to happen in order for them to really start shining through and getting some more round wins.
Absolutely. And in the last series, we were talking about how the mentality of if something's not broken, you don't fix it goes as well. This time around, University of Cincinnati, they had a new approach to it. Sure, a lot of most of the rounds, they had no mistakes or very little mistakes. They were able to still close out the rounds, but they were constantly changing things around. They were constantly changing their positioning around. They're keeping Montana State on their toes so that they can ensure that Montana State, they don't get a read about what University of Cincinnati likes to do. They're keeping them on their toes. They're keeping them on their feet, and hence the University of Cincinnati, they kept that surprise factor in for pretty much every single round. Montana State, they were not sure what they were going to deal with heading into each and every single one of these rounds.
And as we keep eyes out ahead for Bind, it will be Montana State starting off on the defense. And knowing Montana State, they really need to put as strong a lean forward as they can in that first half. One round is not going to quite do it this time either, Inflict. Do you think there's any either compositional or perhaps playmaking opportunities that Montana needs to start off with to make themselves in as good a position for potentially the second half?
Honestly, if you're Montana, you just need to go round by round over here. You need to win the piston round, work off of that, get the next one, and secure as many rounds. Sure, having the first half advantage, winning the first half advantage is going to be extremely crucial considering you're playing defense on bind. But even if you don't, even if you get 4 to 5 rounds, considering the map you just came off of, I'd say that's fine. It's not great, but it's something that you can do. And attack on bind, sure, it's although difficult, and there are a lot of choke points that can be difficult to enter from side to enter sides from. But it's still workable. It's still manageable, depending on the composition that you're playing. A lot of teams tend to go with double controller setups, and that can be helpful on defense. So if Montana State, their executions are on point. Their composition is looking what I'm anticipating them to look like. I think they can take this away, but it's going to be it's a bit up in the air, really.
And we are starting to see these teams get lined up with their compositions. And right now, University of Cincinnati looks like they're hovering that double controller. And on the opposite side, Montana State going to be going, again, I should say, hovering with those two duelists. Although Chamber, I'm always, I always want to jokingly call him the additional duelist because he's just, he doesn't feel like a Sentinel to me. He doesn't feel like he has as much zone control as you would expect out of that Sentinel, out of something like a Sage or a Cypher or a Killjoy, where you just have so much sight presence or restriction of movement. He has one trip, and that feels like about it. I wonder how that's going to play. But we're looking at the other side as well. Jelly Donut decides to lock into that chamber as well. So I'm going to be curious to see how these two teams play against one another, especially with that, if we see it, that double controller versus double
Select
duelist.
your agent.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of agree on that Chamber statement that you made. That Chamber sort of is a pseudo duelist, and that was pretty much the case for the Sky as well. But after that Flash nerf, it isn't as much. But from the looks of it, it seems like MSU they have gone for the double control instead of held freeze on the Brimstone Homeward on the Viper, and that's the similar scenario for UC as well. A double controller and wait, it's a mirror matchup actually. So they've pretty much it's all gonna come down to the executions at this point. There's nothing out of the ordinary or nothing different on their compositions. It's just going to be about how these teams play into these rounds.
All right, I can throw my hands up in the air and admit Inflict. I got a little bit baited by the Yoru pick. I should have expected that wasn't actually going to come through. That's my bad. But no, the double controllers. Again, we talked about this in our previous matchup. With the fact that these are going to be mirrored compositions, we can really see in what capacities these teams shine. You know, tit for tat, as opposed to this is a stylistic difference of one agent being different from another agent. Now we just get to see the raw gameplay for both of these teams go up against one another.
Yeah, but it's still going to be a difficult challenge for Montana State, and I really think that if they don't have a good start in this half, in this map, I don't see them winning. I'll be completely honest with you. I think they need to win this fifth round and maintain a rather dominant lead, or at least a decent bit of lead, to kick things off here.
We see that Viper Walk coming up early from University of Cincinnati, giving a little bit of room towards U-Haul and the entry onto A site. That being said, we also see two creeping around showers. Have to be very careful knowing that there's a chamber on the board. Could be anywhere and instantly snap out at a moment's notice. Montana State, however, playing this very conservatively, not throwing too much utility in there early on. That Viper Wall, oh, wait, what is this? Goes and gets one kill, throws in the face shield, forces a little bit of pressure off projectile as well. I like this look from Montana State, although I've been fooled before by an early pistol round. Jelly Donut with a nice connection on the two headshots from the Ghost is going to be putting down that Brim. However, there's still one controller on the board for Montana State, up 4 against 2. That Raisin Chamber need to make a moment happen.
That they absolutely do, and ooh, that
30 seconds left.
is in a very deadly position. They've probably heard both of these players by now, and if they can get the timing right, this could prove to be extremely deadly. And Montana State in a prime position to secure the pistol round, which in my opinion was absolutely mandatory for them. And now they know exactly where they are. They have a flank set up early as well, and this
10 seconds left.
First
Last
round
player
for
standing.
Oh no, this is going to be MSU getting the 2 headshots from the Ghost. Excellent play there. And Montana State making that look fairly fundamental. I mean, despite it not being their pick, fine. Looking already more comfortable for them.
Yeah, I mean, in the individual positioning that MSU's players were, it just felt like they knew what they were doing, and they were prepared for whatever was going to be thrown at them, and that exactly wasn't what we witnessed from Sunset. It felt like they were a lot more reliant upon each other, which sort of is a good thing. Of course, it's a team gameplay, but you also have to have your individual comfortability, because if you are put in an awkward position, it's only you that's going to take yourself out of it. And last on map, we didn't exactly see that. Montana State so far, though, although they're looking good.
Yeah, and Taka getting hit by an unfortunate slow there, walks right into the judge of the Brimstone, not able to get that lift to get the shorty right into the chest. But now Montana State have the opportunity to react. Going to be teleported travel for the majority of the team, but they still have the defense, that is Montana State, still have that raise on site and can make that contact into Hookah. However, it might be a little bit difficult with this Viper wall. Someone's gonna have to push them through. However, and Ursa able to get a nice shot.
One enemy remaining.
With a third through the smoke. That time was a very difficult spot. Cincinnati not even having the fortune to pull any weapons off of Montana State quite yet.
Yeah, is probably just hoping that they can get the bomb down and have some extra credits going in their favor, and it seems like they probably will be able to here as well, as there's absolutely no one present to deny the bomb plant. And Montana State, a rather comfortable win for them yet again. with all 5 players alive, they might lose 1 or 2 here since Projectile is running around with a shorty. But we're gonna have to wait and find that out. But with only 47 HP for Projectile to work with, I doubt they're gonna be able to come back into this round.
This is tough. Oh, but not tough enough to be able to eventually taken down by Ursa, so they pull 1 weapon off the side of Montana State, but Montana State's still plenty happy with that. Now up 2-0. They'll take that lead seat.
Yeah, they'll take that lead any day, especially after map number 1. You know, it was a devastating map for them. But now this is where they make their comeback happen. University of Cincinnati, though, this is their moment to shut the comeback down very early on, because they have the actual arsenal advantage right here. They have all the rifles that they possibly could have wanted. Jelly Donut on half shield, but other than that, they're looking pretty good. You know, not the same case from Montana State, though. They have a couple of SMGs, a couple of bulldogs in the mix, and I believe 1 sheriff in there as well. So not the prettiest of weaponry that they've hoped for.
Oh, Montana State managed to catch Projectile off the guard there for just a moment. However, it's going to be the swing back from Vulcan that manages to take 2 out. And that's going to weaken the defense here, potentially on this A site. However, it doesn't look like MSU are hurting for numbers there. They're actually heavy leaning onto that A. And that's going to mean that it's just the Sky on the B, as we see Cincinnati making a slow rotation back in that direction.
University of Cincinnati now stacking over towards the B side. Only Wi-Fi available to defend it, and they only have a sheriff. It's not good. It's not going to be good for them. They do have all the utility that they possibly could have wanted, so they can just play for their life.
Launching smoke.
Wait while the wild backup arrives, and now that they're smoked off, they're going to just back off and probably save their information behind that trailblazer and wait for their defense to arrive.
Spike planted.
And I believe that is still the slow laid by that chamber on the Sky, gonna make it so difficult to push out from that hallway. Spike is down, pressure now being applied to Montana State, but with Vulcan going down, that's a good opportunity. No chance for the Molly to come through, no chance for any more smokes should they have still a few in pocket.
1 enemy
So
remaining.
coming through, and Wi-Fi actually able to land the shot onto Jelly Donut. I think we've been seeing a pretty consistent performance coming in from Jelly Donut, so I'm a little bit surprised to see them lose that. However, everybody loses a 1v1 in the game.
Against the Marshall Sheriffs nonetheless. And that's going to give free weapon upgrades from Montana State. It's going to allow them to build their economy up a little bit as well. And now it seems like it's University of Cincinnati that are entering the dangerous phase of this game, as their economy has been completely broken down. This is their own map pick, but we're still very much in the early stages of the map. In Montana State, they're only up 3-0. This lead can get decimated very quickly as well. So University of Cincinnati, although they're probably gonna go down 4-0, it's not too big of a matter just yet.
No, not quite. Still a bunch of reclamation time available for Cincinnati. We're seeing quite a bit of utility being utilized here, and Q-Tip's actually getting 1 right off the bat. Taka not even going to be allowed to enter the fight here. Jelly Donut, however, does take down Ursa. Both races now off the field, scrapped from the plans. And with that, it looks like the Spike might be ferrying a little bit towards B. That Viper backs off right as that Brim starts to make that pass. Vulcan has to be very careful here, decides to back off as they see that Viper orb come up.
Yeah, they're forced to slow down here, and they don't have good weapons either, so they're just playing according to the rules provided to them by Montana State. And well, the rules said the dummy is gonna die next, and that they have. Wi-Fi spotted out another missed shots, but going to play this rather safe. I like this from Montana State. They're not letting weapons get away. They're not letting guys get away as easily, but they have still lost 1.
Yeah, and Projectile way off from the rest of their team. This is going to be kind of a difficult spot for them to try to regroup in here. Q-Tips trying to take the opportunity
30
to go
seconds
in
left.
for that op shot.
Spike
Not really
planted.
too much though. Does eventually find Vulcan, and that is crucial there. I'm not sure if they had it beforehand, but Vulcan now has that orbital strike, so the opportunity to buy out a lot of time from the University of
Last player
drops
standing.
with that tombstone. And that chamber trying to come in, but Q-Tips just looking a little bit sharper. Jelly Donut not winning that matchup either.
And now Montana State officially up 4-0. The ultimate online for 1 Q-Tips as well. And this Montana State, this is exactly what we were looking for from them on map number 1. But it was not present whatsoever. You know, it felt like their thoughts were clustered. They were scattered all across the board. But University of Cincinnati, they're recognizing their problems. They know that they need to take a timeout and figure things out because they cannot let University of Montana State do exactly what University of Cincinnati did to them.
And you know, I feel like as much praise as I want to give Montana State right now, they deserve it. They deserve a lot of praise after all the smack I talked in the break here. But University of Cincinnati also feels like they have a little bit of shortcoming in that they're not doing as many of those duo plays we saw on Sunset. We're not seeing like combinations of blinds and raise satchels. We're not seeing some uber aggression coming out of them, and I think that's working to their detriment here, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah. But we're gonna have to wait and see, really, because University of Cincinnati, you know, we mentioned about how their key communication was actually really good on
Mhm.
map number 1. Uh, It felt like they've taken a bit of an easy route so far in this map. They're taking a lot of individual fights and hoping that they work out in their favor. But we haven't seen as much of a team play. Sure, there have been quite a lot of stacks as well, but the timings have not really worked out as cleanly as we did on Sunset. I'm not exactly sure why that is the case, but if anything, I'm hoping that it would have been actually better on Vine since it is their own map pick.
University of Cincinnati, once again trying to take another bite of the cherry, but remains to be seen if they will be successful. Oh, Q-tips manages to get the shot on the Tonga. I was a little unsure about that one, but they find it, and that is going to leave University of Cincinnati reeling. Once again, you never want to be down that one player, especially on this round where you had to wait 1-2 rounds to buy rifles again. Just not looking great for University of Cincinnati. They have this spike. They're still looking like they want to lean in on that A site. And look at Montana State. They have 3 members just hanging out in showers. And this is dangerous if that orbital strike decides to come through.
Absolutely is. And ooh, here's another big frag for them as Jelly Donut
Smoke's
Keeper, University of Cincinnati already gone down. The orbital strike, it's online. Could prove to be deadly if University of Cincinnati can get the information of 3 players being present over to the stars, but that they do not have. And oh, that combo play behind that bot was actually absolutely insane. All has found 1 frag, but 2 were killed. The retake is not so good.
One enemy
Oh
remaining.
no, it was the misfire coming in from the showstopper. I don't believe it got off the Vulcan. The last remaining member doesn't decide to play far off the spike, and I feel like this Brimstone might be a little bit misused right here. I mean,
Don't even
they
stop.
commit the smoke and the snake bites and the mollies all into the same hallway. And I'm not sure you needed all 3 of them at the same time on top of having that orbital. Just a very rough call from University of Cincinnati. This seems like they're a little bit out of their wheelhouse, if I'm being sincere.
Yeah, and it's weird, you know. It feels like University of Cincinnati, they're being put in those awkward situations that they really shouldn't be. You'd expect them to be a bit more, a tiny bit more comfortable on this map, being their own map pick. But I guess you have to give props to Montana State for to put them in such a situation. But University of Cincinnati once again gonna try their luck onto the A side behind the orbital strike. They look to get aggressive. The orbital strike, it's gonna find nothing. Not the same case for Ursa's paint shell though. It finds the first frag.
And I feel so bad for Tonga. They have been taking L's at the first blood, so in a lot of these matches it is looking very difficult for them. And Cincinnati now getting corralled by an orbital strike from Montana State. Versus Bomb Buddy going to be going out, getting a little bit more information. Vulcan going to be covered by that Viper orb, ensuring that they have a moment to get that plant down. Things are looking so far so good for Cincinnati. They lose 1, but they still have that spike down time ticking away, and that means Montana State now has to be responding here. Projectile looks like they have some setups for those snake bites to try to prolong that fuse time as much as possible.
Massive frags in the post plan. And that lineup, it could further strengthen their post-plan situation, but Ursa has found 2 frags, leaving only 1 player behind. Jelly Donut won't be able to do much either, and they should have just enough time to defuse the bomb, and as Montana State now put on the 6th round in a row.
To the credit, that was looking a lot better for the University of Cincinnati. They didn't invest too heavily in that. They used I believe that was the round they used the orbital strikes, and they've already got quite a fair bit back, if so. And now they're going to have 3 ultimates in their own favor. That showstopper on its own should be good for at least a one-on-one trade. But, I mean, to be honest here, like, I've seen so many showstoppers tonight just not get any value, and it breaks my heart a little bit.
If that race breaks one
But generally,
more
though,
thing.
Tonga has not been having a good game so far.
Yeah.
They're struggling, and especially on the attack side, when your duelist is struggling so much, it sort of tells you the storyline of how the general scoreline is looking like as well. You see University of Cincinnati being down 0-6. It's the same case for Tonga right now. Individual on that individual stat line, Vulcan, although has found the first frag, they don't have that enough space to enter into the side just yet. But eventually, behind the showstopper, they look to go, and
Last
as you
player
said, we've seen
standing.
so many miss, but not this time.
Oh my god, that was a nice transfer, but not quite able to make it last enough. And we were talking about Taka having a bad game, but they certainly put up 3 to try to equalize themselves, try to lift themselves up on that scoreboard.
Yeah, and a very much needed 3K as well for them. They needed something to give them a ray of hope, and what better way to do that than a thrifty round? Even when your economy was in a terrible state, you were able to secure the round win. Only invested 1 ultimate as well. Still have 3 online, and get a couple of free weapon upgrades for a couple of players. So you can work on building your economy right off the bat as you win, if you win another round.
And we're going to be seeing that Chamber use that ultimate to try to send out that high damage sniper, seeing exactly what they can find, but so far, it's not going to be a lot. That Chamber on. We're seeing, of course, the attacking team push through onto Site B. Of course, it's going to be that Viper going to be making so much more difficult to try to maintain the Taka managed to get a range in. Oh, and an unfortunate timing, Homrid pulling out
One
that
enemy
snake bite.
remaining.
Projectile, nice shot to you, it's great. And now it's going to be a return pit coming in from Cincinnati.
Spike planted.
Q-Tips has to try to make something happen here, but that might be a little bit difficult with this weaponry.
Yeah. It doesn't even have a rifle to work with either, so 1 Q-Tips, if they can retrieve a rifle, maybe this works out in favor, but Projectile was prepared for them to enter into the Viper's pit, but
My
University of
smoke can block the
Cincinnati now
enemy's line
finally
of sight.
starting to show
Once they're blind,
consistent
Help a
signs of
girl
life
out,
here as
would
well,
you?
coming off of a win right after that thrifty
She
round
is
as well,
right.
and now their economy looking a decent bit better. If they lose this round, they're probably going to be able to buy rifles into the next round as well. While that's not the same case for Montana State, they're investing fully into this round. They have an an operator in the hands of 1 Q-Tips, but after that, if they lose this, they're gonna go broke.
This is a little bit of, you're absolutely right. This is a risky round for the side of Montana State. And one they would obviously prefer to win. Going to be the smoke orb dropping from Hommerin. And now we're seeing a lot of stacking come in from Montana State. Raid and Viper covering each other, and that is a very painful nade coming in from Taka, proving themselves to be a little bit more of a proficient race this time around. Hommerin has to be careful though, doesn't know which way to look in case the Brimstone pops up onto those boxes in front of Hookah. Very difficult, not only 3 members remaining.
Spike
It's going to be
planted.
Halt. With this judge, has to take a peek onto one side, but immediately put down.
destroyed.
And Q-Tip's just going to be covering their sky as they eventually go into the retreat. They don't want to lose those weapons, particularly that up.
Yeah, and University of Cincinnati are making a very much needed comeback as well in this first half. They've not exactly lost the first half just yet. Montana State still sitting on 6th, and with the way this game is going, University of Cincinnati, they can easily tie things up here as well. Because from the looks of it, it seems like they're gonna have a flawless round win unless they lose a couple of players right here.
Last player standing.
Missed. Vulcan is found. This is the last one by the option, and they're hunting for it, and there you go. Flawless round for University of Cincinnati, and they have a couple of ultimates online as well. I believe the Showstopper is almost online. So University of Cincinnati, now it feels like they're finally trying to find their groove, their rhythm yet again, and show us what they were, show us the similar playstyle to what we were witnessing on map number 1.
And this is a good call from Montana State. You want to take these timeouts. You want to make sure you're utilizing your resources, and that can even include out-of-game resources like these timeouts. try to mentally restabilize. Because for Montana, this is the biggest upswing they've seen so far in this matchup against University of Cincinnati. They need to make sure that they can try to maintain that tempo, because winning 3 more rounds would put them in a great spot when they switch onto the attacking side.
Does that is that an elephant on the right? I'm not entirely sure, but they have a knife in their hands, and
Yeah, I think it's a bunny.
it's
I
a
think-
rabbit.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, F1, for clarifying that. But, uh, well, that's the storyline of this game. You know, the teddy bear. It's University of Cincinnati looking a tad bit harmless, while it's the rabbit Montana State who have a knife in their hands, a bit more deadly so far. Last time around, the teddy bear was chilling, having food, drinks, with a rather comfortable storyline. So you know, these plushies, they're actually defining the storyline for us pretty well.
That works.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I like that. I like that little bit of narrative we get in there as well. And now Montana State, they're starting to buy up again. Is this starting to get a little bit
That's a good spot.
a little bit too investy? Are they starting to throw too much money at those lighter buy weapons to try to stop the bleeding, perhaps a bit earlier than if they just waited to buy a rifle next round? Certainly going to be seeming the case as Wi-Fi gets taken out. Nice little headshot coming in from the Phantom. And now University of Cincinnati going to be routing themselves directly onto A site, and Montana State looking like they're taking a little note out of University of Cincinnati's looking, trying to go for a fast wraparound projectile. Going to be making sure that that entry from defender spawn completely cut off, but little do they know the 3 remaining members from Montana State holding up on this
Last player standing.
spawn. Q-Tips trying to make it happen, only gets 2, and you're going to take a little bit of a bite out of the bank for Cincinnati, but it's probably not enough.
Probably not. But well, again, University of Cincinnati right back into the game. Montana State's economy completely broken, and although Montana State, they took a page out of University of Cincinnati's playbook, you know, going for that pinch or the complete flank. This time around, University of Cincinnati, they were prepared for it. I like the map awareness that University of Cincinnati have shown across both of these maps. Sure, the first 6 rounds, I'm not exactly talking about that. They were struggling big time, but now that they've made changes, now that they're making things work for them, they're right back to what they were doing on map number 1.
And Montana State should have a little bit of information that at least a few members might be leaning in towards Cincinnati. If they didn't from the bird, they certainly did from the smoke. Orbital Strike comes in, trying to flush out those defenders from making some significant wraparounds. Taka just holding that showstopper in their hands, waiting to fire it off at the very last moment. Manages to get a halt. That is crucial, and Halt certainly going to be wishing they had that one back. But Wi-Fi now facing down the barrel of 3 enemies. Only takes 1, however, from Vulcan to put them in the dirt. Comrade now going to follow their comrade in a similar fashion, and I feel like that wasn't enough, and it's going to cost Montana State pretty egregiously here.
Absolutely. And again, one Q-Tip's gonna try and hold on to the operator. I'm not entirely sure how, if they're gonna be allowed to do that though. As yet again, University of Cincinnati are on the front. They're looking to take that one away because they're aware Montana State, they have absolutely no money left in the bank. If they can take that away, the chances of them winning the last round of the first half are going to increase
Last round
immensely.
before the switch.
And well, they aren't supposed to be able to do that. Downfall goes down to the bomb, but that's not gonna matter really. They have too much money in the bank. They're quite literally too rich now.
Yeah, if I ever need a loan, I'm going to the University of Cincinnati and asking their Valorant players to loan me a couple thousand. But that being said, not a lot of ultimates on the board for Cincinnati. We're going to be seeing that sniper come in from the chamber. Ready to throw now that long-range damage as well as any slows. So if anybody from Montana State gets caught out, we'll hopefully see Jelly Donut take full advantage of that. And that includes whatever potential creep might be through this shower. And right now, it looks like Montana State trying to play a slow game and let University of Cincinnati push the tempo they want here as well as building that utility. Yursa in an uncomfortable position of having to peek that long angle with the judge. And just trying to satchel their way into safety. Eventually taken down by that snake bite. Projectile invests both of them, but does get the one.
Ooh, nice little what that there. One Q-Tips. Not so ironic there, but Ooh, Daka going to get the trade eventually as University of Cincinnati yet again heading straight into the site. The bomb should go down soon, and Montana State they're not in a good state, pun intended, very much so, as they're trapped over towards U-Halls right now.
Hummer in kind of a danger close type situation. But they're gonna have to start making moves as that defense is gonna start ticking down.
Last player
Lines
standing.
coming in, Halt caught out, Projectile just ready for them to swing through that U-Haul. And Wi-Fi in a dangerous position, getting slowly squeezed out. Taka took a little bit of warming up on that first bit of the half, but
Switching
now
sides.
proving their worth certainly to the University of Cincinnati.
We're all tied up from being down 6-0. University of Cincinnati have made a massive comeback to tie things up 6-6, not letting Montana State run away with an advantage on the first half, and now that University of Cincinnati are on the defense, it's now, I'd say, dangerous territory for Montana State. I hear.
Yeah, I think that Montana State needs to be fighting back pretty aggressively. Although I do like the aesthetics of the first half being divided into halves all on its own. The nice red and green blocks. They're very aesthetically pleasing to my eyes, but aesthetically pleasing means nothing if you're Montana State and you end up taking that loss here. You're putting up such a good fight, already much happier than what we saw on Sunset, but can they continue to carry? They're committing a bit of utility to try to clear out that hookah. Injectile's going to know that now, hiding behind the curtain.
Who peeks out behind the flash, won't be able to find anything. Dummy, on the other hand, gets the trade though, so keeping things equalized for the time being. As the rotations coming in from the side of University of Cincinnati, Jelly Donut though is going to remain all by themselves over towards the A side, eventually going to meet their counterpart, their chamber counterpart.
And this is going to be close. Whoever lands this first shot. I'm amazed Jelly Donut went for that second shot. They perhaps played a little bit riskier there, giving Egypt eventually the space. That rendezvous is going to be still placed down into showers, allowing that chamber to get nestled in. Trademark eventually goes down, as does Egypt. Both chambers now being brought to their knees. Opportunity for Taka to really start reclamation here. That Sky needs to try to get to them if they can, give them a little bit of healing if it's available, and not quite catch that purchase. It's going to be the blind going
One
out
enemy
Hulk,
remaining.
and managing to get the shot onto Taka and then hammer it onto Vulcan.
One enemy remaining.
Trying to play for their life, but
One
Hall
left
eventually does make the kill, and that is going to be the attackers coming up once again. Montana
Let's
State might
ruin
be
their
looking to start off
day.
strong.
A very close pistol round with a lot of trades back and forth. It really could have been anybody's round, and maybe if Jelly Donut had found that frag onto 1Q tips, that actually I think would have closed out the round for University of Cincinnati, because Montana State, they would have been forced to slow down with the but since 1Q tips was allowed to gain space over towards Shars, the rest of the players were allowed to take the TP and rush into the site, while University of Cincinnati, they weren't exactly prepared to retake the site as they were still rushing in from the rotation. But now that MSU has better economy, they're all stacked up.
Yeah, the strategy coming in from University of Cincinnati and just try to calm the line into victory here. That means that University of Cincinnati should have the read that A site's going to be relatively free. They're going to be looking to lean into that, get the spike planted, and once that's done, your controller and Sentinel crew, your controllers and your dudes should be able to get nice and set up, have the opportunity to make it a little bit more difficult for you to push in.
Montana State have both of their controllers online, so they can keep the players of Cincinnati at bay for the time being. Projectile, the timing's gonna matter a lot right here. Ooh, it's going to keep them at bay for the time being. The judge should. Oh no, both of them deal a lot of damage, but as the clock ticks down, University of Cincinnati, they need to go.
One enemy remaining.
That is tough. There is only one member remaining, but Montana State did have quite a few weapons pulled from their hand. Jelly Donut not able to get a grip on any of it, however, maybe. No, it looks like instead they're just going to be trying to go in and die to the spike, losing very little there, only the cost of a sheriff.
Yeah, and they're probably going to be able to buy full rifles into this round, but I'm not sure if Montana State are gonna do the same. They might just work with a half buy, because they lost 4 of their players. They're only gonna have 1 rifle heading into this round that they salvaged from the last round. But other than that, the arsenal, it's not looking good. Not the case for University of Cincinnati though. They got 4 frags. They ecoed the last round as well, so they
Find
have
the
a
weak
good amount
point
of money in
and
their
break it.
reserves.
Now, once again, Montana State gonna have another opportunity to push this as they like.
Here, scout.
And it's going to be the shots coming out, immediate information gathered by that Trailblazer. And yourself being very careful to check these corners, has to anticipate whether they'll be on one side or the other with that Bucky. It sometimes feels like you only get one shot. If it's not a good shot, then you're going to be suffering.
MSU, they're really taking their time with this one. Formation, they're not giving a lot away either. Homer Aaron, he's been spotted out, but kept at bay for the time being. He wanted to get aggressive over towards U-Hauls, but they've held him back.
And we're seeing that utility being thrown down slowly but surely by the defense. They want to just try to draw this out as long as possible. And for University of Cincinnati, that could work very well. We've not seen Montana under a lot of time pressure throughout these rounds in this matchup, so perhaps that might
30
prove to be
seconds
a
left.
weakness for Montana State. They're certainly going to be diving right out on this side.
One
And
enemy
we're starting to see
remaining.
there's too many
Spike
cooks
down,
in the
B.
kitchen for that team. Not enough people to handle it. And just like that, Montana State really struggling when the slow, methodical play doesn't work out for them.
Yeah, 1 Q-tips left all by himself.
10
and that
seconds left.
trusty pistol, faint shell gun to keep them away. And well, they really want to go inside here because they don't have anything whatsoever left to save either. And UC Projectile going to be the one that gets their 3rd frag as they close out the gap down to just 1. Montana State. Now they're going to be able to fully buy into this one though. Now, although University of Cincinnati, they only lost 1 player, their economy is going to still look pretty pristine all across the board in my opinion. But Montana State, if they need to win this round to ensure that University of Cincinnati don't start to go on a roll, because now they have the favorable side of the map as well. Their economy is looking
I got
good,
yous,
and the
okay?
scoreline is going to be all tied up, while Montana State's economy will be completely broken.
A lot of things hinge on this round. That bird goes out, doesn't quite find anything for this guy, and that's going to be utility that will come back eventually if Montana State decides to play it slow once again. So far, Montana State seems to have taken their foot off the gas. It doesn't look like they're committing to a side. It looks like they're committing to a hit. And we're not seeing them get any of those early kills, but just really paid off for them in the previous rounds.
Teleport's ready.
Yeah. And again, it's pretty similar to what we saw the last time around, of slow, patient play coming in from the side of MSU.
Now
How
we're cooking.
they look to get aggressive, but Vulcan going to be the one that greets them initially as your side is falling.
Like butter, baby.
Oh, and Hammered having to have the knife out to try to get over that wall just a little bit, but Vulcan cashing in at the most opportune time. Taka taking down 1, 2 remain standing for Montana State, and we were talking about this
Last
being around
player
they needed to
standing.
win, but it looks like they're just not going to quite have it in them this time around. They'll have to bring it back
30 seconds
a
left.
couple rounds in. Looks like Halt might hold on to that Vandal instead.
Yeah, 1v5, there's not really a lot of hope. You only have 1 smoke as well. And 1
Right here.
ultimate point away
Right
from
here.
getting the orbital strike, so you're hoping that maybe you can find a frag, an exit frag,
10 seconds
deal a
left.
bit of damage onto University of Cincinnati's economy, get your own ultimate to work with in the next round as well, while the rest of your team is going to be pretty much broke. But if Halt can live here, maybe he can drop a rifle around. It doesn't seem like he will live. Oh, never mind.
Well, not a bad opportunity here, but certainly not a great one. Halt does get to keep the Vandal in hand, but the question remains for how long? The rest of your team is not going to be able to support you. You gotta have to take the lead with that and hope that they can pick it up, reclaim it, and get some kills off the back end. Or you kill some of University of Cincinnati and take either their Phantoms or their Vandals for yourself. But even then, it's a lofty task. And Taka has this showstopper as well to really put the hurt down. And even catch one of your members out can put you at a disadvantage. Another disadvantage, I should say.
University of Cincinnati now. Again, looking very strong. Sure, they lost 2 rounds to kick the second half off, but they're back into the driver's seat. Projectile with a sort of an aggressive angle, but he does have immediate help as well. Yursa, oh, this is getting ballsy, but can oh no, I'm holding my breath.
Looked like Yursa managed to get seen out by. Excuse me. It looked like
Oh,
Taka managed to get seen out by Yursa, who's just holding this site steady. But Jelly Donut has the huge advantage here. Has the way out. Oh my God! Gets the 2 as Q-Tips and Yursa right around that corner. Huge advantage. Spike is acquired. A nice
Enemy down.
from Montana State. It's not going to quite be enough. And Taka held in an uncomfortable position
One
by the
enemy
volley,
remaining.
dangerously low, manages to get
Spike
Hulk
down
Fleets,
A.
however. It's going to be up to Wi-Fi. They make the one-shot connect. They cannot, held a little too aggressively by Jectile. And that is going to be 3 remain standing for the defenders. Needed to claim something back, and it's not going to quite be enough cash off the table for Cincinnati.
yeah, and that's the first time University of Cincinnati has had a round lead in map number 2. This is their own map pick. This is the team that we're talking about. Won map number 1 with a 13-1 scoreline. It feels a bit unbelievable to say it. You know, we're so deep into this game. We're 17 rounds deep into this game already. And University of Cincinnati, this is the first time that they've had their lead, but now it really feels like that they have the momentum. They're in the driver's seat. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what Montana State are doing, so they counter them perfectly. So now with only 4 rounds potentially left before University of Cincinnati can close things out here, Montana State, they need to put something on board quickly.
Certainly do it. Oh, a bit of an over-aggression from Yursa, leading right into Jectile. Going to be orb to allow the pass for the 2 members to try to get back onto the site. Dummy and Jectile, I believe, got caught in their own snake bite. Maybe incorrect on that one. However, as now the attackers don't look like they know exactly where they want to go. Oh, Q-Tips actually hits the legs on the opposing chamber. Jelly Donut going to be able to walk away, although maybe with a little bit more of a limp.
Copy kill.
Oh, big frag onto Homer, leaving only 2 players behind, and Montana State again in all
player
in trouble with
standing.
only 2 players live. Make
Spike
that 1.
down B.
And 1 Q-Tips. This story has been so many times where he's tried to save that operator and has
30
failed
seconds
pretty
left.
much every single time. Can he do it this time though? I'm not entirely sure.
It's lofty with 20 seconds left and and a 4-on-1. That was a big ask for Q-Tips, no matter how you look at it. Taka deciding if they want to take it. I think they ended up they did end up snagging it for their own, and that's going to be advantageous. I mean, no matter which way you look at it, robbing that econ of your opponent is just going to be valuable. Jelly Donut, of course, going to be looking to lock it in, able to take the shot, instantly teleport out. Pretty good for Chamber.
Yeah, and you can tell that Montana State are now getting confused. Now they're questioning their approach to this game as well, because you can see Homer, he's fully bought in, but that's not the case for the rest of the players. There's some miscommunication going on about what their buy is going to be. Eventually, though, Homer gets a half shield, so they still have something. The reserve back for the next round potentially, but Vulcan, that's exactly where Yursa is going to get sent by
Smoke's
Vulcan.
down.
With only 4 players alive for Montana State.
And I don't know if I like that push from Yursa into Vulcan. You have anticipation that somebody's going to be at U-Haul, and you still push it just by yourself with a Spectre, knowing that they have just, frankly, the superior weaponry. You can't take that 1v1. At least I don't like you to. Jelly Donut still having this site down shot. Might get Hammer, and does so successfully.
One enemy remaining.
Position, but they
Spike
have the
down
help needed. They're behind. They wanted to, I guess, knife the final player, but oh no, don't do this. Okay, thank you. Jelly Donut going to finish things off, and University of Cincinnati put on the 11th round with they only now need 2 more rounds, and MSU's economy not completely broken down. They're actually gonna have a full buy-in to this one, but if they lose this round, the game's pretty much over for them in the series. So a mandatory timeout, and if they lose one more round right here, that's going to be GG's from them. So their backs are completely against the wall now.
And while they have quite a few ultimates online, there's not a lot I would say that work necessarily supremely in their favor being on the attack side and helping them not be as passive as they are, right? That Viper's Pit will be good if you can get it in a post-plant situation. That showstopper, I think, is the real key to unlocking something. If they have the opportunity for Ursa to come in here and land a kill or land even 2 kills because of some bad positioning out of Cincinnati, that would be the best case scenario for Montana State. Other than that, I think it's really going to come down to these individual plays. And even then, the Orbital Strike, the Viper's Pit coming in from Cincinnati, both good denial tools as well. If you do go down post-plant, then the Sky has those Seekers. University of Cincinnati really has an advantage in the ult game to me.
That they do. I actually agree with you right there. But again, we're gonna have to wait and see what the execution is gonna look like. So far, it honestly, it hasn't really mattered about what the utility of University of Cincinnati has looked like, because in the last couple of rounds, some decisions have been pretty questionable from the side of Montana State. As you mentioned, you know, that Ursa's push in the last round, I'm not entirely sure what the thought process was, or if there was some miscommunication, because Ursa had absolutely no help whatsoever. All of their teammates were all the way over, all the way back. But this time around, out with the showstopper, going to provide their first pick.
That is crucial, and that Viper just outside of that wall of projectile. Man, projectile actually taking a few bullets and sweeping in. Viper speed essential there.
1 enemy remaining.
Maybe the third. The ace doesn't come through. Oh, I was rooting for you, Viper. Oh no, but it's gonna be the defenders coming up clean. Jelly Donut there waiting for that teleporter.
Match point.
And that should be the dagger for University of Cincinnati. Montana State now, it seems like they've managed to scrap together a full buy here still, with Wi-Fi still running around with a Spectre and 1 Bulldog in the hands of Homer. But other than that, they're looking good. University of Cincinnati, though, it's just not about the weaponry for them at this point. They've looked clean. They've looked extremely confident in their play style as well in this later half of the game as well.
Blinded.
So Montana State, now they need to win 4 rounds in a row in order to throw us to overtime. Otherwise, it's GG's.
And not just GG's for the map, GG's for the set. It's going to be a little bit difficult to manage to maintain that projectile moving right in front of their orb. Immediately as they get the pass over, so they will have that crossfire with the Sky. Be playing on the blind. The Sky actually doesn't activate the blind, so the opposing team can't come around in the immediate. This is a little bit more of a conversation I've been needing to see from University of Cincinnati that we were seeing first map around. They're looking very coordinated now that they've gotten into the swing of things. Montana State, 2 remaining. The barrel of the Brimstone equalize into a 2-on-2. That spike still being held towards Huga, and it's going to be the wraparound projectile, however. Makes a pass and doesn't look like they know exactly where they want to go. They may have realized their mistake in leaving B-side a bit early.
Yeah, they're going to fix that mistake though, because they spotted out, because they know Jelly Donor, he likes to play late into the A side, and if they have spotted out the Viper as well, that means the B side is left all open for them to take over, and that's exactly what they've done. They have the bomb down as well. Now a 2 versus 2 for the retake, as both of the players of the University of Cincinnati close the gap.
Rendezvous, I believe, was up for Q-tips, but it doesn't look like they're going to elect to throw it down. Instead,
One
playing this a
enemy
little bit
remaining.
dry. No, I did see that down at the very last moment. Projectile managed to take down the Q-tips. Oh, but Ursa not quite able to deliver. The raise was needed there to keep this team alive. That is not going to be the case, but it will be the case. University of Cincinnati come up victorious here on
Defenders
and
win.
against Montana State University.
Finally, It was a very interesting game as well, you know. Montana State, they started off really strong. They ended up winning 6 rounds in a row to kick things off on Bind, which was University of Cincinnati's map pick. And to do that, especially after such a devastating loss on your own map pick, you know, they were down 13-1 on their own map, and to gain such great momentum and on your opponent's map pick, it speaks a lot about Montana State's resilience. Sadly, it just wasn't enough to push them across the finish line, and University of Cincinnati, they came in clutch later down the line and were able to close the game out.
And Inflict, this entire time we were on Bind, I was kind of wondering what's the difference here for University of Cincinnati, where they're not as successful, they're not as dominant as they were on that Sunset map. And I started thinking to myself, well, we're seeing Taka now instead of Waldy, and I'm wondering that Sky was essential on Sunset to setting up some of those combos that we were talking about pretty much throughout this entire game. So I'm wondering if maybe Cincinnati kind of gets a read that Montana's a good opportunity to try out perhaps some of their other players. So they pull out Waldy, Taka goes in, and then we see a couple of swaps around that. But I'm wondering I don't think we saw nearly as many assists coming out from the Sky, and we'll be waiting for that confirmation here once I get the scoreboard up. But that seems like it was potentially a big change coming in from Cincinnati. I can't wait to pick the brain of these players when we do get an opportunity.
Yeah, and Taka, as we mentioned, midway into the game, that Taka wasn't exactly having a good game as well. He was to kick things off, he was down 6-0 to 6. He had no kills and 6 deaths, and maybe it was solely because he wasn't exactly warmed up. You know, as you mentioned, he wasn't playing on in map number 1, so that could really just be the case. But still, having such a terrible start and then making your way back, that sort of, I think Taka was sort of the difference maker for Cincinnati from the start towards the end. You know, they didn't have as much aggression as they hoped for, and eventually when Taka did come alive, when he felt like he was fitting back into the game, that's when University of Cincinnati made their comeback.
Yeah, and we do have those stats up here, but the long and short of it is we're not seeing nearly as many assists coming out from the Sky on the second map as we did on the first. However, we're going to get a little bit more into the brain of University of Cincinnati on the other side of this break. So, folks, make sure you stick around. We'll be right back. Hello, folks. Welcome back. Thanks for hanging in there through our short breaks. Or welcome and Inflict back. This time with special guest Jectile. Jectile, hello, welcome. Big congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. How's it going, everybody?
Well, from our end, that last map was the most competitive map Inflict and I have casted today. So very pleased to see that. But
Nice, nice.
before we get into that map, I want to kind of talk about the pre-game stuff, Jectile. What was the mindset of you and your team coming into this? Did you guys do a lot of research onto Montana State, or was this just another day at the office? What was going through your head?
Honestly, going in, I had no idea what to expect. We've never scrimmed Suns up before. We have no idea how these guys play. So we also had a sub for the first game, so we had no idea. I just went in, did my thing, a little light 13-1. Coach was pissed we couldn't get the 13-0, but we'll iron it out for next week.
Oh wow. Okay, I like that confidence, but if you're gonna eye around the 13-1, I want to ask you what do you think actually sort of went wrong in the initial phases of Bind? You had all the momentum in your favor coming off of that 13-1 win, and then you went down 6-0. Sure, you guys made you guys made an amazing comeback, but what do you think were the sort of mistakes you were making initially?
Honestly, Bind, pistol, we lost that, and they won the fourth round. Round 3 is really where they got their momentum. They kind of cut us off with an eco push. That was on us. Should have been ready for that. Then after that, they got that 4-0 lead. Pretty much just took it back from there. We started playing our game, playing a little slower. We found the exploit on B site. We kept hard hitting B. And after we won like 3 rounds of B, then we just started throwing fakes and stuff, and they were forced to over rotate. And defense is pretty light.
Nice. Okay. But so well, you guys have looked dominant. If we remove that 6-0, other than that, you guys have looked dominant so far in this whole game and this whole series as well. So what are you looking to achieve in this whole season? Are you looking to make a statement? Are you looking to win? What's the end goal right here?
8-0, or however many games it is. I'm looking to win it all.
Love that, and I'm hoping we get to see some more competitive games coming out of University of Cincinnati. But for right now, we're about ready to wrap things up. It's pretty late where I'm at, so Jectile, thank you once again for coming in here answering a few of our questions. But before we let you go, give you the opportunity to shout out anybody. Who you got?
Shout out Morgie, my girl. Shout out the boys. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I know a lot of my boys in the chat. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you guys for hosting this.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you, Jectile, and a big congratulations for your victory today.
Thank you.
And for myself and Inflict, we are about ready to sign things off. But folks, thank you once again for tuning in with us, hanging out, and enjoying some good old Valorant here at EGF Season 5. So for Inflict, myself, and Jectile, we hope to see you next week. Same time, same place. We'll see you then. But until then, stay safe and take care, everyone.